The world is in a constant state of change now more than ever. It's a world that requires resilience, flexibility, and innovation to overcome challenges and to pursue growth. That is why the University of the Philippines Los Baños is pursuing future-proofing initiatives to provide agile leadership and develop local and global communities amidst shocks and disruptions in an ever-changing world. Guided by compassion, an openness to working together, and a daring to seek out breakthroughs, UPLB constantly pushes for academic excellence, produces relevant research, establishes academic and industry partnerships, and cultivates creativity, critical thinking, and innovation. To keep up with a fast-changing world and to strive for inclusivity in development, UPLB seeks to level the playing field and expand avenues for acquiring new knowledge. It is reshaping the learning experience, enabling students and educators to continue with the learning process in vastly different learning conditions. It is expanding its academic programs and supporting initiatives to create a conducive learning environment. To address the growing complexities of modern problems, UPLB continues to break barriers across disciplines to produce cutting-edge innovations and solutions that serve the needs of various communities. It is taking on challenges in food security and sustainability and coordinating research efforts to direct the university's resources toward critical research areas, making sure that the university-generated knowledge can reach its intended stakeholders and be applied to real-life contexts. UPLB is dedicated to its commitment to contribute to public good and social welfare as it continues to work with the local government and the community to address their most pressing needs. Amidst its engagements, UPLB remains as one of the top regional and global universities and continues to be recognized in the country and across the world. As the national university, UPLB aims to be a steadfast partner in development as a producer of new approaches that minimize the cost and impacts of future shocks, and by honing leaders committed to knowledge creation, innovation, and cutting-edge research and public service. This is UPLB's roadmap to be an impactful institution in a constantly changing landscape. Responsive, innovative, future-proof.
Welcome to the College of Public Affairs and Development of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. CPAF is home to globally competitive thought leaders where they are honed in the fields of development and governance. We are located right at the foot of our beautiful Mount Makiling. Step into CPAF and experience a vibrant academic environment where ideas turn into action.
Since its recognition as a full-fledged college in 1998, CPAF has stood out for its interdisciplinary approach, combining public affairs, governance, and development with strong focus on Philippine and regional contexts. Moreover, CPAF is known for its policy-relevant research. Also, it has an active engagement with capacity building for various communities. Its strategic location here at UPLB and strong institutional partnerships further enhance its role in molding development-oriented leaders and influencing evidence-based policy.
Here's what we have in a quick sneak peek. Institute for Governance and Rural Development, Center for Strategic Planning and Policy Studies, Community Innovation Studies Center, Knowledge Management Office, and the Dean's Office. CPAF has been the leading institution in public affairs and development, bridging research policy and community-driven solutions. At CPAF, we are more than just an academic institution. We are a research and extension hub for strategic planning, policy studies, and community innovation. All change makers, practitioners, academics, and lifelong learners are welcome to collaborate with our research centers or join our academic degree programs. So, what do we learn here? At CPAF, we mentor our students by exposing them to our growing network of global and local linkages. These linkages open doors to career opportunities in public affairs and development. We provide training for our students to be well-rounded policy analysts and advocates, development managers, research and extension personnel, and academic leaders of rural development and governance. CPAF champions public affairs as a transdisciplinary field, so students learn to be inclusive and innovative through the co-creation of knowledge with communities. This leads to greater responsiveness in addressing the pressing problems of the modern world.
Our college offers programs that endeavor to contribute in the development of transformational and thought leaders for development. So we have currently 5 programs that we offer that hope to enhance the skills and the competencies of development practitioners.
So join us and be part of our programs. Master in Public Affairs, Master or MS in Development Management and Governance, MS or PhD in Community Development, MS or PhD in Extension Education, or PhD in Development Studies.
I choose CPAS because the CPAS offer the coursework that met with my academics and career goal. And I'm also saw the CPAS alumni in my country, which is inspire me to study at CPAS because they are working in the top positions, especially in NGO and INGO field. And then also bear friendship with your friend and with your professor because they can support you.
As an international student, I feel fortunate to be studying at CPAF, where I've had many memorable experiences. The academically and socially enriching environment has made my graduate school journey both enjoyable and fulfilling. The knowledge and the experience that I have gained here will help me to contribute to future sustainable development efforts.
So what are you waiting for? Start your journey at UPLB CPAF and be part of a positive social change.
Welcome. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voices and Verdicts SWS Survey Review on Politics, Governance, and Public Life. All right. This is organized by the UPLB College of Public Affairs and Development in collaboration with the Social Weather Station. So we are really thankful for the 53 participants that we have here today. And also, we are live on YouTube. You can search that on College of Public Affairs and Development YouTube page. That's our YouTube page, so follow us for more updates. So if you are curious what this webinar is about, the SWS Survey Review presents nationally representative survey data on key social, economic, and political issues. This webinar will also discuss SWS survey methodologies and introduce participants to its open access database, which can support academic and policy work. So we really appreciate that the UPLB community is here. This will be very beneficial to our researchers, our faculty, our students even, who are interested in this kind of thesis study maybe. All right, so to formally start the program, let's begin with an opening remarks. This will be delivered by, of course, the Dean of the College of Public Affairs and Development, none other than Professor Rhea L. Gumasi.
Thank you, Mami Chico. So, good morning po sa ating lahat. Warm and pleasant morning sa ating mga 55 participants now. Okay? Isang malaking karangalan po sa College of Public Affairs and Development dito sa UPLB na salubungin kayong lahat sa ating public forum na tinatawag nating Voices and Verdicts, SWS Survey Review on Politics, Governance, and Public Life. Today is special. We are co-hosting this event with the Social Weather Stations, a highly respected institution that is celebrating a milestone. Happy 40th anniversary po sa SWS. 4 na dekada ng tapat na serbisyo, 4 na dekada ng statistics for advocacy at 4 na dekada ng pagbibigay ng malinaw na boses sa karaniwang Pilipino. We are honored to have you here for this event. Ang pamagat po natin ngayon ay Voices and Verdicts, napapanahon at napakahalaga ng usaping ito. Behind every statistic and every survey are real voices of our fellow Filipinos, their daily struggles, their satisfaction, their frustrations, and their hopes. Today, you're not just looking at numbers, you're reading the pulse of the nation. Upang himayin at ipaliwanag ang mga datos na ito, we are very privileged to have with us two distinguished experts from SWS. Let us warmly welcome our speakers, Mr. Gerardo J. Sandoval, Vice President of SWS, and Mr. Leo Rando S. La Rosa, the Director of Communications and Information Technology of SWS. Maraming salamat po, Sir J. and Sir Leo, sa paglalaan ng oras upang ipabahagi ang inyong malalim na pagsusuri sa atin. I would also like to acknowledge our esteemed moderator for today's session, none other than Dr. Bruce Tolentino, professorial lecturer here at CPAF. As with other forum that we have, Dr. Bruce brings with us his network that aligns with CPAF's values and mandate. Dr. Bruce, muli at lagi po nagpapasalamat kami sa iyo. Okay? For bringing not only your students, but bringing this forum into a broader audience. So, sa mga estudyante ni Dr. Bruce, swerte-swerte po kayo. Kaya naman po sa ating mga attendees, mga students, mga guro, mga reps po natin, public servants, and mga concerned citizens, hinihikayat ko po kayong makinig, matuto at makilahok. This forum is free and open to all because we believe that good governance and public awareness are everybody's business. Please don't hesitate to ask questions later dun po sa open forum natin. Muli, isa mapagpalang umaga sa ating lahat. Welcome to Voices and Verdicts. To officially get us started, please welcome our moderator, Dr. Bruce Tolentino. Sir, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Dean Rhea, and it's a pleasure to be working with the entire CPAF team and SWS on this event. Let me just share a little story that I have about SWS and its founding. The founder of SWS is Mahar Mangahas, Dr. Mahar Mangahas, and he had the beginnings of the idea of SWS while he was working in Los Baños many years ago. He was part of the staff of ERI, working with UPLB during the beginnings of Masagana 99. This was in the early 80s, and at that time, it was the start of trying to find out how farmers really felt about government programs. And so this was the seed of where Mahar Mga started this idea of putting together SWS. And now, of course, Mahar is retired, he's emeritus, but he's still very active. And now running SWS is Jay Sandoval and Leo La Rosa. And we're very glad that they are here. Jay, of course, has been a long-standing officer of SWS. He helps create it. He's now running it. And he's also representing the Philippines in the International Association of the World Association for Public Opinion Research. And in fact, is the incoming president of the World Association for Public Opinion Research. So we are very privileged to have Jay here. Also, Leo is the fellow and SWS, like I am a fellow too, and director of communications and IT at SWS. And he puts a data together that is shared with you. Just to note, for all students here, the SWS data bank is open to all of you. And you can just work with, I believe, Leo La Rosa, so that you can get access to the full data bank, which goes back many, many, many decades. Clean data bank, easy to access and easy to analyze, and ready for dissertation and master's research. So without further ado, let me introduce Jay Sandoval to start the program. Jay?
Okay. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Bruce, for your introduction about social weather stations. It is indeed a good background as to where Mahar started SWS. As you know, some would confuse SWS or social weather stations with Pag-asa kasi merong word na weather. Some would confuse it with SSS because of the two S in our acronym. Others would confuse us with DSWD or even MWSS. But as you may probably know, Social Weather Stations is a survey research institution. Bakit stations sa dulo? Because when the name was created, those who created the name thought, including Mahar Mangas, that it should have stations at the end of the word station. Because in order for us to measure public opinion accurately, we have to go to different locations in the Philippines, like a weather bureau. In order for you to accurately measure the weather in the entire country, you have to have many barometer, you have to have many instruments located in different parts of the country to be able to accurately measure the weather in the Philippines. Anyway, so our presentation will have two parts. I will be giving a short introduction about social weather stations, and it will be continued by Leo La Rosa. We will be talking about the 2026 SWS Survey Review on politics, governance, and public life. And we are happy to be here at this presentation. Okay, in this survey review, we will be focusing on many surveys conducted by social weather stations in 2025. Actually, the results will not only cover the 2025 surveys, but if a survey item has time series data, we will also be presenting them. Because like Bruce said, the data are archived at our survey data library and archives, and we are able to access them. So many of the findings here would contain time series results. Now, in 2025, we are quite busy. We conducted pre-election surveys, as you will see here. In January, February, March, April, and May, we conducted pre-election surveys of registered voters with about 1,800 respondents. And the focus of that surveys were on political preferences, among other things. And aside from those electoral surveys, SWS, as part of its program, conducts quarterly nationwide surveys. Those are the respondents with adults. Typically, they have 1,200 respondents, and sometimes we have 1,500 adult respondents. And also, in October of 2025, SWS conducted a special survey in Metro Manila, and the focus of that survey was on corruption. Now, the quarterly nationwide surveys that I mentioned had various topics. It included measures of poverty, hunger, quality of life, ratings of governance, which will all be presented in this survey presentation. Okay, in terms of presentation of the results, I will be talking about SWS, our archive and networks, and then it will be preceded by the representation of the results by Leo La Rosa, and they will focus on attention to news, economic welfare and quality of life, hunger and food security, governance, voter attitudes, women and politics, the impeachment case versus VP Sara Duterte, the ICC and the war on illegal drugs. We will also have many items on corruption, crime victimization and public safety, foreign relation, fake news, and given that it's a gender month, we will be releasing results or showing results on gender ideology and end with moral indicators that we have in our surveys. Very quickly about social weather stations. We are established in 1985. We are a private, non-stock, non-profit organization. We have celebrated our 40th year last year. And we are happy that we are able to continue with our survey operations. And the SWS mission includes education, as you will see in the screen, conscientization, and analysis. Our motto, stated in Latin and translated into English, is as many opinions as there are people, which essentially pertains to respecting diversity. SWS is an academic research institution. We are comprised of social scientists, various social scientists, and definitely we are politically non-partisan. Although during election time, there are people or groups who would accuse SWS as being politically partisan, but definitely I can assure you that we are politically non-partisan. But depending on the survey results, like I said, if there are, for instance, 5 candidates in an election and SWS would release those findings, only one would be happy with the results if that person is the leading individual. The rest of the 4 lagging candidates would comment negatively about the surveys or will have different opinions about the survey. So SWS generates data on public issues. In our surveys, we track regularly several indicators, including poverty, hunger, quality of life, experience of hunger, ratings of governance, but we also measure opinion on various issues, including current ones. And we publish our findings officially in the SWS website at www.sws.org.ph. And one important characteristic that we have as an academic institution is that we archive all our data for public research. It may not be, freely or readily available at the SWS website, but when you contact SWS, and I will be providing the individual to contact for that, you will be able to inquire or tell her the topics of interest that you have, and we will be able to provide you with data or the questions that we have used in the past. And when SWS conducts a survey for a particular group or individual, it's important that the survey that we conducted are on temporary basis only in terms of embargo. We allow for a maximum of 3 years in terms of embargo period available publicly. How do we sustain our operations where we are just like any other business organizations, if I may say, no? Kung walang parokyano, walang sumusuporta or nagpapatronize ng produkto mo, matitigil yung operations. Kumbaga sa tindahan, kung walang bumibili, kung sa isang nagpo-provide ng service like a car service, a vehicle service, kung wala kayong customers, hindi magtutuloy-tuloy yung inyong operations. And we are lucky that in the past 40 years, we have sustained our operations. And how are we able to do that? We are able to sustain our operations by accepting rider questions in our quarterly nationwide surveys. How is that? SWS conducts quarterly nationwide surveys. It's just like a regular bus trip, if I may say, no? SWS has a bus trip of 4 times a year, and we schedule that bus trip at the last month in every quarter. So that bus trip would allow for passengers to buy tickets for them to be able to go to the destination. As long as you are, as long as you are aware of the destination, you're aware of the design, uh, kung saan ba may stopover, ano ba itsura ng bus, etc. So, SWS has a fixed design for those surveys, the quarterly nationwide surveys. It typically has 1,200 respondents nationwide for study areas, particularly Metro Manila, the balance of Luzon, excluding Metro Manila, Visayas, and Mindanao. And our respondents are adults. So if your research requirement does not pertain to the general public or adult, that design may not be suitable for you. For instance, if your interest pertains to businessman or enterprise manager, the SWS Quarterly Nationwide Survey may not be an appropriate vehicle for your research need. But if you are okay with the research design, like I said, and you are okay also with the schedule, then you can ride that bus and include rider questions. So SWS charges certain fees for rider questions depending on the type. Now, kung nagmamadali ka, meron kang sariling biyahe, sariling destinasyon, hindi ka okay sa schedule ng aming quarterly nationwide surveys, then you can opt to get a different vehicle, which is what we also offer. It's called commission survey. So in that case, you will commission your own survey. We will design the survey questions for you, of course, finalize them with you. The schedule will be up to you, after we have finalized the questionnaire. And of course, the design will be developed with you. And then other than those rider questions and commission surveys, we accept research and consultancy contracts. We also accept research grants, and we charge for publication and raw data and access of the library, minimal charges only. And we have fellows membership fees. But for active fellows like Dr. Bruce, he's not collected any fees. All right, next. Well, SWS is known for its surveys on quality of life, public opinion, and governance. So many of the surveys that we have conducted, particularly tracking indicators, are shared or released in the SWS website. And we are very, very happy with this award. In 2019, Social Weather Stations received an award from ISCOLS. The ISCOLS stands for International Society for Quality of Life Studies. The ISCOLS was established in 1995. It is a global organization whose mission is to promote and encourage research in the field of quality of life, happiness, and well-being. So ISCOLS gives an award, and they give only one institutional award. Sorry, they only give institutional awards, ISCOLS. And the award is given to an organization in recognition of its significant accomplishments in the development and application of quality of life measures in serving its constituency. So in 2019, in September 9 of 2019, Social Weather Stations as an institution received an award from ISCOLS. And to us, that's a very prestigious award. It's actually the best award that an institution can get in terms of its quality of life studies. And which institutions also obtained the award? So in 2004, the Kids Count obtained such award. In 1998, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention also received the ISCOLS Award. In 2007, the United Nations Development Program, for the Human Development Index, obtained that award. And in 2010, the Transparency International also received that award. So, to have received the ISCOLS Award. In terms of archive and network of the International Social Survey Program, or ISSP. The ISSP is a cross-national collaboration of different countries conducting annual surveys on diverse topics relevant to social sciences. The important thing about this is that each year, the member countries would conduct surveys on a particular topic. So lahat ng mga miyembrong bansa ng ISSP in one particular year, for instance, in 1990 here, conducted a survey on role of government. And the objective of that is for the different countries to later be able to compare the results across different countries. it has a very strict requirements in terms of methodology. When you apply for the ISSP, there would be a standing committee that would review or evaluate your qualification as an institution. They will also review your research methodologies, and after which, if they find it okay, they will eventually accept you. And the responsibility to generate the survey results for the particular years will be the responsibility of the respective institution. So SWS joined ISSP in 91, and since then has been able to submit and conduct data sets, conduct surveys and submit data sets on the different topics. We started with the ISSP survey on religion in 1991 and proceeded with social inequality in 1992, etc. So you will see the different topics implemented across the different years by social weather stations and submitted to the ISSP. Aside from that, SWS is also a member of the World Value Survey. It is an international research program devoted to the scientific and academic study of social, political, economic, religious, and cultural values of people in the world. So SWS conducted the surveys for World Value Surveys in 1996, 2001, 2012, 2019, and we hope to conduct the next one this year. So like ISSP, when you participate in the World Value Surveys, you will be able to access and be able to compare the results of the Philippine data with that of the rest of the country. Now, the next one stands for Comparative Study of Electoral Systems, or the CSES. It is a program to do research pertaining to elections in different parts of the world. So SWS conducted the CES study in 2004, 2010, 2016, and 2022. We conduct the CSES surveys every after the presidential election. Other than this, of the Asian Barometer Survey, so it focuses on the ASEAN region, and it also has many country members. So SWS conducted the Asian Barometer surveys in 2002, 2005, 2010, 2014, 2018, and 2021. Now, in all of these networks, I'd like to point out the important thing is that when the institution participates in the different networks, it not only enables us to compare the results of the Philippines with other countries, but we are also able to obtain the results of in the different countries. And the websites there that I provided will allow researchers to access the different results. Of course, there are requirements for an individual to access the data set. For instance, in the Asian Barometer survey, you will just have to register, and then after registering, you will be able to get the data set of the Asian Barometer surveys. In the ISSP, you also need to register, and you will have to select the specific data set that you would be requiring. And in the ISSP, for instance, aside from the data set available in various formats like SPSS, you will be able to obtain information about the research methodologies of different countries. You will also be able to obtain the questionnaire used by the different countries translated into their own languages. Okay, aside from those, we are also part of the World Association for Public Opinion Research. We are also a member of the Philippine Social Science Council, the Marketing, Opinion, and Research Society of the Philippines, etc., as you will see on the screen. Now, the SWS survey data archives, like I said, it is important for us to archive the surveys that we have conducted. Why? Because, I mean, the survey that you conducted back in 1991, for instance, you cannot replicate that survey in 1998 or in the recent times, 2026, because, of course, the sentiments then are different. I mean, you cannot go back in time to redo the survey. That's why, for us, it is important for us to archive the survey data that we have conducted in all of our surveys. Now, in the SWS Survey Data Library and Archives, we have so far 848 data sets comprised of 368 national data sets and 480 subnational data sets. And in terms of respondents, we have interviewed more than 1.2 million. Of course, with the Philippine population of more than 110 million, we have only interviewed about 1.2 million. And in fact, related to that, others would comment that if a survey, particularly that of SWS survey, is legitimate or true, some would comment, bakit hindi pa ako na-interview? Yun yung basic reason nila. Of course, di ba, what are the chances of you being interviewed? If there are about 80 million adults in the Philippines, what are your chances of being interviewed? It's 1 out of 80 million. Very small chance. And what happens if we happen to knock at your door and you are away for a long time, I mean, way beyond the fieldwork period, then we will not be able to interview you already. Or if we interviewed you or we approach you and you said, I am not willing to participate because I'm busy, etc., then we will not be part of the survey. And like I said, the SWS data sets are not available in the SWS website, but you could email us to inquire about the availability of the data set, the availability of survey questions on particular topic. And in particular, this is the person to email, Ms. Josefina Mar, and this is her email address. You could also email the SWS Data Archive and Library, the email address of which is here. Okay, before Leo proceeds with the presentation of the different results, I think Michiko earlier mentioned about SWS methodology. I do not have it in the slide here, but I'd like to tell you that in terms of the 1,200 design of SWS for a nationwide survey, that design is often divided into 4 study areas. So the 1,200 respondents are equally divided into 4 study areas. Each area, and they are comprised of Metro Manila, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Each area is allotted 300 respondents. So equally divided sila. Now others would comment, bakit ganon? When you look at the population of Metro Manila, for instance, Metro Manila is not 25% of the Philippine population. Luzon is about 44% of the Philippine adult population. So why are we allocating equal number of respondents? Well, that's a design by SWS because aside from the 4 study areas allocation, we wanted to have sufficient number of respondents per study area to allow us to compare across the different areas, those four study areas, with the same level of accuracy. Because with 1,200 respondents, you have an error margin of plus or minus 3% at the national level, 95% confidence level. When you go down to the 4 areas with 300 respondents, it will have an error margin of plus or minus 6% at the 95 confidence level. So with equal sample allocation, you will be able to compare Metro Manila with 300 respondents, with Luzon with 300 respondents, Visayas with 300 respondents, etc., with the same level of error margin. Now, recognizing that they are not of equal proportions, given the Philippine population proportions, what we do is that when we aggregate the data set at the national level, we of course use appropriate census weights. So 25% of Metro Manila, so Metro Manila's 25% of the sample, when we aggregate that to the Philippine results, it will represent only about 14% of the Philippine population. So similarly, Luzon's 25% in the sample would become 44% after applying census weights. So that's what I mean by applying census weights when we aggregate the results at the national level. And then how do we select the respondent? In Metro Manila, for instance, with 300 respondents, we typically go to we typically get 5 respondents per barangay. So in order for us to interview 300 respondents in Metro Manila, we will go to 60 barangays. How do we get the 60 barangays? We randomly select the barangays within Metro Manila with probability proportional to size. How does that work? Para siyang raffle with different tickets. A bigger barangay in terms of population would have more tickets compared to a smaller barangay in terms of population. And we will all put them, for instance, in a Tambiolo. So yung barangay A with 10 times more tickets compared to barangay B would have 10 times chance of being selected. So it's sampling with probability proportional to size. So again, we select 60 barangays in Metro Manila, and in the barangay, we will identify randomly the starting points. The starting points are fixed structures within the barangay. It could be barangay captain's house, it could be a church, a school, a health center, a, a basketball court even. So structures that are available in the barangay. And we have rules for the starting points. And then after the starting points, we also have random start. They are any number from 1 to 6 or 1 to 7. So the combination of the random start and the starting point would allow the interviewer to identify in the particular barangay kung saan siya magsisimula. And by the way, those random start and starting points are randomly generated at SWS. So we will tell the enumerator na, for instance, in Barangay A, you look for the health center. And after identifying the health center, you count 6 structures because 6 is the randomly generated number for that barangay. And if the 7th structure, if that happens to be a dwelling unit, doon kakatok sa interviewer. And pagkakatok niya, ililista niya lahat ng adult members of the household, and the tablet would randomly generate who among the listed adult in the household should be interviewed. Ang interviewer, hindi yung nagvo-volunteer na, hoy, ako na-interviewin mo, dito ako, I am present, I'm willing to be interviewed. If that person is not the one randomly generated by the tablet, hindi pa rin siya yung i-interviewin. So there are rules for covering the area, there are rules for selecting the respondents, for callbacks, etc. So, ganon. So, after interviewing that first respondent, there will be an interval, maybe of 6 or 5. The interviewer will skip 6 or 7 households and knock at the 8th household. So, ganon, hanggang makakompleto siya ng 5 respondents in a barangay. So, like I said, we normally interview 5 respondents in a barangay. For the rest of the country, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, similar approach, except that there's a separate stage, additional stage for selecting the provinces. But after selecting the provinces, we also go to selecting the barangays, selecting the household, and selecting the respondent within the barangay. So that's it. So without taking so much time of Leo, I will now let him proceed with the rest of the presentation. Maraming salamat po sa inyong attention.
Hello, magandang umaga at maraming salamat, Jay. Maraming salamat din po, Dean Rhea and Sir Bruce, for having us here. It's a mission of SWS to disseminate all our findings either via our archive or through events like this. This has been a tradition of SWS since 2001 to look at Philippine history and the history of the Filipino people through the unique perspective of survey data. And each data that you will see here is a product of the teamwork within here in SWS. As Jay mentioned, it goes through a process, a scientific process, and ang lahat ng ito ay bungan ng teamwork within SWS. So, special mention sa mga kasamahan ko dito sa SWS. So thank you very much po. And so what happened in with the Filipino people last year? Every quarter we test people's attention to news events. And year 2005 can be summarized as giving attention to the natural disasters, education, and former President Duterte's arrest by the ICC. As you can see here, typhoons and devastating earthquakes was closely followed by a large majority, clearly 70s level, and also the return of the month of June as the beginning of the school year, and the arrest of PRRD, and his transfer to The Hague. Those news reports got a lot of public attention. If you look at the list of events here, you'll see that some issues, for example, especially those happening internationally, don't get as much public attention. At around 20%, 19%, we have the Mexican-Canada tightening their borders. We have the Cambodia-Thailand dispute, 19%. And even the news about the Japanese Prime Minister with just 12%. So it's all about the public attention was heavy on national disasters, education, and former President Duterte's arrest by the ICC. Going now to the economic welfare, the self-rated poverty is an innovation of SWS. It's the fastest monitoring of poverty ever built, ever designed by SWS. It uses a subjective measure, but subjective feeling measured objectively. And we do this by using a show card showing the words hindi mahirap and mahirap with the 50-50 using the positive show card with the hindi mahirap on top and the negative show card showing mahirap on top. So this has been going on since 1983. And if you can see here, the two vertical lines cutting the line under the Duterte administration, that was the pandemic. During the time when transportation was locked down and our field interviewers were not able to go to the field. This question cannot be implemented by phone. We had phone surveys during the pandemic. However, this particular question is hard to implement because it uses a show card. So that's something that we have not discovered how to do using a mobile phone. So it was restored in November 2020. So here, what happened in 2025? We were coming out from a very bad 63% self-rated poor family, 63% of households by the end of 2024. And since then, self-rated poor hovered between 50% to 55% by the end of 2025, and 51%, that's still high. You know, although we see that we recovered from the pandemic, it spiked to 24% to 63% in 2024, given the lots of economic crisis happening that year. 2025 can be seen as a quite a recovery, but not as well, because we still have half of Filipino households saying that they are poor. But the story can be seen here. This is a breakdown of the data showing the not poor in green, the borderline in orange, and the poor in red. As you can see, borderline used to be in the level of 30s, 27, 30, but by June 2024, it shrunk to 12%, 13%, and as of November 25, it's at 12%. So we see a shrinking proportion of borderline families and a growing percentage of not poor families. So here we see the opportunities. While the percentage of poor households has been steady around 50%, we see a growing not poor households. So we hope to see, of course, we hope to see poor household going down and the not poor households to go up. Now, going to personal quality of life. This is about the change in personal quality of life compared to 12 months ago. If you say that it's better now, you are one of the gainers. If you say that it's worse now compared to 12 months ago, you're one of the losers. And traditionally, losers outnumber gainers. we are, we are, I don't know, medyo, tawag dito, maano tayo eh, parang, tawag dito, prudent. We are very prudent when assessing our personal quality of life. So we see losers traditionally outnumbering gainers since 1983, but we've seen the change in the trend by the end of the term of Noynoy Aquino when the green outnumbered the red, and that shows a better state of affairs, more gainers than the losers. And but that picture was broken during the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see, red shot shot up in a very high spike. But we see a recovery, and as of, for example, June 2024, we see a 39% gainers. And we see that crossover again, showing a not so good state of affairs when the losers outnumbered now, as of November 2025, 36 versus 29. So it's not a good state of affairs in terms of personal quality of life. But when you talk about optimism, there's no shortage of optimism. Even if our kababayans feel that they're worse off now, there is no shortage of optimism. As of November 2025, 44% they are optimistic versus only 8% pessimistic. But it doesn't mean that we are bulletproof in terms of optimism. We've seen bad days during crisis. The double whammy of wetting gate and oil price crisis in 2001, there's a crossover, more pessimist than optimist. The steep oil price hike that led to a lot of crisis in 2004, and the rise in oil price hikes and the global economic crisis before 2010, you see also a spike there. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. It's clear that pessimism rose at that time. But here in 2025, starting 2022, 2025, there's no shortage of optimism. But we are not as generous with economic optimism as we are with our personal optimism. We see that looking at the Philippine economy, their outlook is not as good, and we see a downward trend after a spike during the start of the Marcos administration, as often seen every time we change administration after an election. There's a euphoria, there's a spike, but then there's a steady downward trend, and it's not a good picture. It now stands at 32 optimists and 26 pessimists. We don't want to see, the red line above the green line. And it has not happened, well, it happened briefly during the pandemic, but it was during the Arroyo administration when it was very stark that economic pessimism was very dominant. Thanks to our sponsors, we were able to ask about what people think about the government social welfare programs. In terms of awareness, the 4Ps, for example, has a very high awareness level, 93, compared to the WGP or the Walang Gutom program. But overall, there's a very positive perception about these social welfare programs, with 66% saying 4Ps, for example, is very helpful, 51% saying Tupad is very helpful, 42 for AKAP, 42 for assistance to individuals in crisis situations, and 48 to Walang Gutom program. So overall, these social welfare programs of the government are seen as very helpful by at least the plurality of the respondents. Now, we asked about what do you think is the most important problem of the country? And traditionally and historically, it has always been economic. As you can see, the orange line, economic includes inflation, high prices of commodities, etc. It's economic related. But very recently, if you look at the red line, governance, which includes corruption, has been hovering before 2025. It has been hovering between 10% to 30%. You know, it's not the top of the mind of our kababayans until 2025. It shot up very sharply from 2024 to 2025, and it now stands at 52% as the most important problem. Governance. It's a grouping of responses, but in that grouping, it includes the problem of corruption in government, followed by economy, and small percentages saying social services, related to social services, crime, democracy, security, and so on. Now, going to hunger. Hunger is our measure of deeper deprivation as compared to poverty, where poverty, you ask families to rate themselves using the words mahirap or hindi. This one is about asking their experience. So it's a measure of deeper deprivation. As you can see, by start of 2025, we see a very high percentage of households saying that they experience involuntary hunger. By involuntary hunger, hindi sila nagdidieta or hindi sila hindi kumain dahil tinatamad. Involuntary hunger, having nothing to eat in the past 3 months. So we see a recovery by the end of 2025, but it's still very high at 20.1% as of November 2025. Those who experienced it only once or a few times, that's the green line, that's the moderate, it's at 15.6%, while those who experience it often or always, that's the red line, that's the even severe measure. It's at 4.5. So we hope to see that improve over the next, but now we are facing with the effects of the war in Iran. So we hope it won't affect us as much. But as you can see here, this is the annual average, and 2024 and 2025 has been such a bad year in terms of experience of involuntary hunger. 20.2 average in 2024, it's not changed in 2025. So yeah, we're not in the clear, especially with the oil crisis coming up. By location, Mindanao and the Visayas were the traditionally higher percentage of household with hunger incidents. And as you can see, as of November 2025, Mindanao is on top with 26.7%, followed by NCR. NCR typically is not among the top, but it's quite interesting to point out that it even outnumbered balanced Luzon or Luzon outside of Metro Manila. So yeah, hungry everywhere. We have further questions related to hunger, and this is about the family's food insecurity, where we tested 9 specific cases of food insecurity of varying intensity or severity. So we asked them if they experience this food insecurity over the past month, just in the past month, and we saw 54% worried about not having food because of lack of money or lack of food or resources. 48% saying they ate fewer kinds of food, lesser variety of food. 43% said they eat less than what they thought is needed. 41% said they ate food that they don't want. 37%, and this is the medyo severe na, they ran out of food. 36% were unable to eat healthy food. 28% skipped a meal. And 18% they slept hungry. And the worst or the most severe is that 7% said they went a whole day without eating. So yeah, that's the picture of food insecurity among our kababayans. And this has been a question that we ran since September 2024. And as you can see, for every specific incidence, the latter part of 2025 has seen the intensifying feeling of this food insecurity. The worry about not having enough food, it went up to 58% in September and 54% in November 2025. The same for the rest of the incident. Eating few kinds of food, it rose in the latter part of 2025. Eating less than needed, also mataas din by the end of 2025. Eating unwanted food, tumaas din. Run out of food. Eating unhealthy food. Ayan. So it all rose by the latter part of 2025. It's not a not a good state of affairs there. Going a whole day without eating has been single digit, but it's not changing. It went to as low as 5% in June 2025, but yeah, it's still at 7% by November 2025. We looked at it also by location, and we see that these food insecurities were typically higher in Mindanao and outside Metro Manila. Worry about having not enough food, it's highest in Mindanao and higher outside Metro Manila. Same for eating a few kinds of food, highest in Mindanao. Eating less than needed, 55 in Mindanao compared to the other areas. Eating unwanted food, highest in Mindanao. Same with running out of food, unable to eat healthy food. So you see the pattern by area in terms of food insecurity, and we see that our kababayans in Mindanao, they have it worse there in terms of food insecurity. So going now to governance, I'll be citing numbers that are expressed in net, and just to give you an idea, our classification scheme for net ratings, 70 and above, excellence, 50 to 69, very good, plus 32, plus 49, good, plus 10 to 29, moderate, and so on. With minus 70 and below, execrable. So yeah, that's just to give us a quick reference for the numbers that I'll be showing. So the president, about presidents. As of November 2025, President Bongbong Marcos had a neutral +3 net satisfaction rating. Net satisfaction meaning it's the difference between very satisfied and not at all satisfied, or dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. So that's the difference of the satisfied and dissatisfied. It's at neutral as of November 2025 for President Bongbong Marcos. It has been on a steady decline since 2024. It went below the red line sometime the start of 2025, but recovered. And it has been at neutral as of November 2025. If you compare President Bongbong Marcos with past president, yeah, he had honeymoon and we mark it, you will see here by the blue dot. The blue dot represents the last survey period or survey point before they went below the yellow line. That's our gauge of honeymoon. If it went below the yellow line, it means honeymoon is over. So for President Cory Aquino, it's 3 1/4 years. For President Ramos, it's 2 1/4 years. For President Estrada, it's 3/4 years. For President Arroyo, she had no honeymoon at all. For President Noynoy Aquino, it's 3 3/4 years. For President Duterte, he never went down below the +30 yellow line. So it's a maybe second honeymoon. But for President Bongbong Marcos, he followed the trend that most past presidents went through. It's a steady downward trend. And by 1.5 years, his honeymoon was over. It's below the yellow line. So that's for the president. For the vice president, it's a moderate +28 for Vice President Sara Duterte. She also went down the yellow line and has hovered just below that ever since. She is comparable with Vice President Bina in the past. She is comparable with VP De Castro in the past, but slightly different from then VP Robredo, where you can see that she has dipped way lower. Sorry. Historically, our kababayans don't like vice presidents that go against the president. So we saw that when Laurel, for example, went against Cory Aquino, when VP Gloria Arroyo took to the streets and demonstrated openly, she also had that steep dive. So yeah. So we'll see what happens next for VP Sara Duterte. We also look at Senate presidents, and here we see Senate President Soto at moderate +16. It's not as high as his previous stint as Senate President under the Duterte administration, and also not as high as former Senate President Escudero and Subiri. For speakers, we have Speaker Boji D at neutral +5. Almost similar to the last point of former Speaker Martin Romualdez, who saw a very consistent downward trend since the start of the Marcos administration. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, we had Chief Justice Gesmundo at neutral +9. It used to be high, but it has seen a downward trend, a steady downward trend since 2024. We ask our respondents specific, how satisfied are they with specific functions and issues of the national administration. The overall is not an average of all of this. It's a separate question. So all of the issues tested here are asked separately. So topping the list of this is the governance scorecard, kumbaga. So the highest in terms of net satisfaction is improving children's education at a very good +54, followed by helping victims of disaster with +50. Helping the poor, these are the good grades, helping the poor, creating jobs, developing science and technology, implementing housing for the poor, ensuring efficient transportation, ensuring food security. Food security, for example, if you look at the trend, this light blue, it's not as high before. In the Estrada administration, it hovers around plus 20 to plus 10, and now it's at plus 32. Providing information on government projects, this is our way of, measuring transparency. And the moderate for disaster management, preparing for typhoons plus 28. And we have also item about defending Philippine sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea at plus 27. We add new items depending on what's crucial at the moment. And, we included preparing for volcanic eruptions, given that since 2024 and during 2025, we've seen our volcanoes acting up. Telling the truth, of course, it's there. It's a long series, and ensuring no hungry families, the 20%. Now, these are the problem areas where neutral and to poor net satisfaction rating, ensuring that oil companies do not take advantage of the oil price. Being neutral, fighting crimes, it's neutral. Now, here's the recent problem area, because it wasn't as bad during Noynoy Aquino and Duterte, although it was bad during the Ramos, Estrada, and Arroyo. Now it's going back to that level, fighting corruption. It's on its way down. Fighting inflation, traditionally a problem area. It eased up during Noynoy Aquino and Duterte, but it's been going down. So let's see what happens. Institutional satisfaction ratings, we see a declining satisfaction with the Senate and the House of Representatives. As we go, as the Marcos administration proceeded, it's been on a downward trend. Supreme Court, same trend. It's not as low before, during the Aquino and Duterte administrations, but I see it returning to the same levels as it was during the Cory Aquino, Ramos, Estrada, and Arroyo administration. So we'll see. We were able to gather information during the election, thanks also to our partnership with Strat-based consultancy. We asked about what do voters prefer in terms of candidate advocacies, and it's all about jobs, food security, and health. How consistently. Even if you look at the list at the lower part, they're still high, but not as high as those top three. Eradicating graft and corruption, for example, it's at 73%. They're all high. 70s and above, clear majority. Voters want all of this, but in terms of, how much they want it, the top three are the jobs, food security, and health. In terms of endorsement, we found that mayors, family members, and even former President Duterte are the best endorsers when it comes to senatorial candidates. So just to give you an idea, vloggers, for example, or YouTubers, there's only 21% saying that they would probably vote for whoever they endorse. So it's not as, their endorsing power is not as strong as their mayor, family members. So there's still the Duterte effect. Voter attitudes. Most people here decide for themselves whom to vote for. It's still the majority, and ever since, even in past elections, as compared versus most people here are just told by the leaders whom to vote for. People vote according to one's conscience. Although we see a downward trend, it's still high at 67% versus the 33% saying they vote for the one you think will win. Tactical voting, also highly supported. If the most desired candidate has no hope of winning, then vote for the one who might win in order not to waste one's vote. So you see how serious we are when it comes to our vote. Naiisip nila to, mga tactical voting, para wag masayang, that's the term. So it's a high agreement, 60%. Accepting money, but voting by conscience. In an election, it is not bad to accept money provided one's votes according to one's conscience. It's it's a split opinion, but with the plurality agreeing. Take the money as long as you vote according to your conscience. 49 agree, 15% undecided, and 36% disagree. Kind of a mix, but leaning towards yes, I will accept the money. Popular support versus political machinery. Yes, 71% agree that a candidate wins due to true popular support without machinery, as against 29% political machinery of a candidate wins the election for him or her. Now, it's still slightly towards voting according to personality, as against platform and program, with 55% saying their choice is based on personality, 44 based on platform and program. And that has been the tradition ever since, well, this is 2025. But even in the past, I think we asked this and it's still, leaning towards personality. It was an election that is violence-free. As far as our kababayans are concerned, they disagree that people are in danger of getting hurt because of election-related violence, and at 59% disagree to that. And they also disagree that violence during election is an accepted part of life in this place. So yeah, there's no expectation of violence during that election. Now, about women and politics, we saw a majority agreement that women in politics are more likely to advocate for social issues such as education and healthcare. And they also agree, with 51% agree, that women are better at governance than men. Yeah, so happy Women's Month to all. And there is strong support that it is hard for a woman to become a candidate for political office unless she comes from a family of politicians. 55% agree as of March 2025. Not much difference to almost a year ago, September 2024, 53%. Now going to the impeachment case versus VP Sara. We tested this statement. Overall, how much do you believe or not believe that the Senate deliberately does not want to start the impeachment trial of VP Sara immediately at the Senate? And we saw, a plurality saying they believe. Yes, across all areas, except for, Mindanao, where there is a split, mixed opinion in Mindanao. But this plurality belief, you see it in Metro Manila, we see it in Luzon outside Metro Manila, and we see it in Visayas. People were aware before the survey, they're aware of the Supreme Court decision to nullify the fourth impeachment complaint against VP Sara under the grounds that it was unconstitutional. While 47% they were made aware during the interview. And when asked about their opinion about it, yes, 42% agree, but there's also a large percentage of disagreement, 34%. So we would call this, net agreement of +8, it's neutral. So almost, the agreement getting canceled out by disagreement. So we have the neutral opinion on this. But we have a very strong majority agreement 72%, that Vice President Sara Duterte must address the impeachment charges to be able to answer all allegations pertaining to the corruption charges filed against her. This was in September 2025, and we hope to see this, whatever we are coming up with our new survey very soon. I'm not sure if this is also included, but with the way things are going, I think, we'll see what happens. But there is a strong support that VP Sara Duterte should address the impeachment charges. Now, going to ICC and the war on drugs by former President Rodrigo Duterte, we found a net plus 18 agreement that former President Rodrigo Duterte should be held accountable. 50% agree, 32% disagree. And it hasn't changed. I mean, we asked this in Feb 2025, and as of September 2025, half agreed that, former President Rodrigo Duterte should be held accountable. And people are watching this, with 25% following very closely, 34% somewhat closely. That's a majority following the news on the ICC. Now, we've been testing this just to see how people feel about what's happening in former President Duterte's camp, and they are aware, for example, that the former president defense team applied for an interim release, and you would see we saw that 61% agree to this, that they agree with the request by former President Duterte's defense team for an interim release while he still has indefinite date for the next hearing. So yeah. Regardless, there's high, the 47% much confidence that the ICC would conduct a fair trial of former President Duterte, 47%. And about the question on former President Duterte's capacity to stand trial, his mental capacity, the majority opinion is that whether former President Duterte's mental capacity has really declined can only be determined if the trial proceeds. So yeah, as against 31% that the supposed decline in former President Duterte's mental capacity is just an excuse. So the majority opinion is that, let the trial proceed, and from there we can see if the mental capacity of former President Duterte has indeed declined. Corruption, which is the one of the hottest issues we've looked into in 2025, and you see, as of November 2025, 77% say that corruption is wrong because it hurts the country's development. As against, corruption is wrong because it is immoral, with only 21%. We've been doing this for quite some time with not just the Filipino public, the adult respondents, but also with a special series of surveys with enterprise managers, as shown here in patterned bar charts. So patterned bar charts are from the survey of enterprises, where our respondents were the mid to top managers of enterprises. And yeah, it's always been a majority, both for the Filipino public and the enterprise managers, that corruption is wrong because it hurts national development. And also 75%, a clear majority, see a lot of corruption in the public sector or government. It hasn't changed even among enterprise managers, but it's especially big or especially large in 2025, at the height of the flood control scam of pictures showing on national TV the, bundok ng pera na nasa napaghahatian. So it really hits the the Filipino sensibility. So there's a lot of corruption. Where is this happening? There's lots of corruption, and topping the list is the national government with 47% saying there's a lot of corruption as compared to province 16%, city municipality 13, and single digit for the barangay, police locality, and military in their area. So proximity kind of shows a little good faith, but national government, no. How often are corrupt officials get punished? And sad to say, the bigger majority says it's almost never, 31% and 44% seldom. It hasn't changed. How effective are the steps taken by the present administration to eradicate corruption? Not at all effective, according to more than half with the red. There's a slight increase among those. It's somewhat effective, but we'll see. It used to be very high, Estrada, Arroyo, Noynoy Aquino, the green bars used to be high, but no. By the time we reach Bongbong Marcos as of 2025, it's small. This is from the Special Mega Manila Survey, and we asked if the citizens associate poorly built or unfinished government projects with corruption, and we saw it's a majority yes. It's a sign of corruption if they see poorly built or unfinished government projects, 76%. Same across areas. Now we have this sincerity ratings where we ask them if how sincere are these institutions in fighting corruption. Net sincerity, it's the difference between very sincere and not sincere. And on top of the list is SSS, DepEd, municipal government, AFP, DOLE, NBI, Pag-ibig, barangay government, DOH, GSIS, PhilHealth, with good, a very good to good. Moderate, you see a lot of agencies here, but you'll see the red line or the red bars below the red line, meaning they got more insincere ratings. You see the DBM, the Senate, House of Representatives, the Bureau of Customs, and the star of the show, DPWH, with minus 43. Net sincerity. So they are insincere as seen by the public. Now, we asked about electronic governance or the application of information and communications technology to reduce corruption in government transactions. And we, even in the past, we've seen a strong support for this, but somehow by October 2025, we see just around half supporting this idea. The past data we have are from enterprise managers, and these are the people that, do transactions with government, while the October 2025 is the Mega Manila respondents. So high support among enterprise managers for electronic governance. How effective are suggestions to reduce corruptions in the government? We have a long list, but we grouped it, and you see here written in red text, we categorize them as punishments, impose stiffer penalties, file cases, suspend corrupt government officials, impose stiffer penalties. So all about punishment, and they are seen as very effective. The blue ones, are transparency. No, transparency in government, monitor closely, broadcast, publish, report corruption in government, make SALNs of government officials accessible again, make government procedures, systems, and services transparent, and so on. So the blue texts are all about transparency, while the black texts are all about policy change. Prohibit government officials from receiving any gift, require to regularly attend values and moral formation seminars, automate government systems, require fewer signatures on papers. So yeah, so punishment first on top, strongest support, followed by transparency measures, and policy reforms. We asked about victimization of common crimes being pickpocket or robbery, break-ins, physical violence, and carnap, and with the new addition of cybercrime. And cybercrime turns out to be on top, and we've seen all of these common crimes coming out, or in general outward trend throughout 2025. It has been low, it's been on a downward trend consistently ever since 1989, all the way down to 2016, all the way down during Duterte administration, but it is showing signs of going up over the start of the Marcos administration. Neighborhood fears. This is about, are you afraid that robbers might break into your house? Fear of burglary? Are you afraid to walk in the street at night because it is not safe? And are you seeing many people around addicted to illegal drugs? There is no letting up on this fear, neighborhood fears. Although we've seen it going down during the Duterte administration, it has returned to the same level as it was by the end of the Noynoy Aquino administration. And yeah, we hope to see this go down because sa totoo lang, it's been steady. Foreign relations. We asked about how people feel about the armed conflict in the Middle East, and the majority or the dominant opinion is they sympathize equally with both the Palestinian people and the Israelis. But with the 39% pala, neither of them, they sympathize with neither of them. With the balance of opinion, equally, both of them. And with the rest of, the smaller percentages showing a slight leaning towards sympathy for the Israelis rather than the Palestinians. 6% and 11%. It's been a tradition for us to ask about how people trust different countries. And we see here that United States, Canada, and Japan obtain good net trust ratings. Although we can see that there is a slight decline, downward trend for the US since the start of the Marcos administration. Countries like Israel, Malaysia, Ukraine, and Russia, and Indonesia obtained neutral, meaning single-digit net trust ratings, but Palestine, Iran, and China obtained poor net trust ratings. China has been traditionally a distrusted country among Filipinos, except during brief periods during the Arroyo administration and the Duterte administration, where it briefly went above the red line. Now, this is just to show you that as a country, the United States is a well-trusted country among Filipinos, but not as much as the personality or the president. Here we show that Trump had a moderate plus 12 net trust, comparable to Biden, not as high as Obama with plus 41, and not as high as G.W. Bush, all the way back sometime during the Arroyo administration. There is a strong support that the government must further strengthen its alliance with other countries to defend the Philippine territorial and economic rights in the West Philippine Sea. So it's a 77% agreement to this, forming alliances. We've looked into fake news and saw that, the majority of the Filipino public find this problem, both in media and internet, as a serious problem. And however, sad to say that our kababayans find it very difficult or somewhat difficult to see or to assess fake news in news information. And but they say that they often or sometimes see fake news in media. So yeah, aminado sila na mahirap spot, but they believe that it happens a lot or sometimes. We asked about certain roles in the family and found strong support for a traditional point of view. First, a man's job is to earn money, a woman's job is to look after home and family. 83% agree. Being a wife is just as fulfilling as working for pay. 81%, yes. We asked about how people feel, and there is no shortage in happiness. Even if we see during the Marcos administration, medyo bumababa yung very happy. There's also no shortage in terms of satisfaction with life, with the majority feeling fairly satisfied or very satisfied with their life. Also, no shortage in terms of feeling free to say anything they want openly and without fear, if it's against the administration. There's a slight dipping in the agree during the last part of the Duterte administration, but it has come back to traditional high levels. 67% say they are satisfied with how democracy works. It's not as high as before during the Aquino and Duterte administration, but still above what it was during the Estrada and the Arroyo administration, and even Ramos, and even Cory Aquino. There's nothing wrong with democracy. 54% always preferring democracy, 25% indifferent, and 22, conditional authoritarians. There's no shortage in pride in being a Filipino. 79% saying they're very proud. Back in Christmas, yes, we saw a happy celebration. 68% saying they were looking forward to a happy Christmas. It suffered during the pandemic, but recovered. And people are thankful for good health, family, and being alive consistently over the past 3 years. And of course, with hope. Entering the new year with hope, 89%. But we feel stress. And as of September 2025, there's 68% saying they frequently or sometimes experience stress in daily life. Almost hardly changing, but slightly rising from 2017, 2019. And on the magnitude, it's more intense when it comes to one's financial situation, stressing over finances compared to one's health, to jobs or school, and one's family. So yeah, mga kaperahan. But there's ways of coping with stress. And the number one, we found that praying, resting, and going out. There's the most common way of how Filipinos cope with stress. We ask about love life every year. And 46% as of 2025 say they're very happy with their love life. But tumataas ang nagsasabi na could be happier at 40%. 14% say wala silang love life. And we always see that married couples are the happiest compared to other civil status, marital status. So yes, yan po ang aming survey review for the past year. And maraming salamat po for your time and for listening.
Wow. Leo, that was quite a presentation. 107 slides and much to chew over. I don't see any questions in the Q&A box. I believe that Jay has been answering some of the questions already. So let me just start the ball rolling in our Q&A session. You had a slide that presented the most important problems that the Philippines faces. And while you had health and jobs and crime there, I was wondering if you could break down crime to include drugs, because very often, particularly during the time of President Duterte, he said that was the number one problem. But you did not survey specifically about drugs being on the list of important problems. Why is that? You're muted, Leo?
Yes, thank you. The data where we showed the most important problems, these are already grouped. And the one about the responses that are related to drug problem, they are grouped under crime. Yeah. So traditionally, it has not been the top, because this question asks only of one answer, and it's not a multi-response. And we have not seen crime spike so much, except during the end of the almost above 25%. But during the Duterte administration, the biggest concern, which I think this is why crime did not register as much, was social services. Not social services. It's pandemic related. Pandemic related occupied the answers, because this question only asked for one answer, and the most cited answer during that time under President Duterte was about the pandemic, handling pandemic, COVID-19, vaccines, etc., etc. So yes, maybe crime, and we have not been very frequent in terms of fielding this question quarterly. It's not. It has. We have not been very conscious about fielding this question quarterly. And by the time we fielded it during the Duterte administration, it was only very few points, and it was during the pandemic. So maybe if that we lost our chance to see to implement this question more frequently than we wanted, then maybe we could have captured the ones about the problems on drugs.
Yeah, okay. Well, it bears thinking about because it might come up again, particularly since there are emerging discussions about drugs not being an issue of crime, but as an issue of health, and also drugs an issue of legality, because several countries, including Thailand, for example, have already made at least marijuana legal. So that might be something to explore in future rounds. Yeah. Thank you.
If I may add, yes, since this question is implemented open-end, the responses are recorded. The responses were recorded verbatim. So yes, if, for example, secondary analysis can be applied to the data, and by looking at the responses more closely, for example, and because traditionally in our grouping, we've grouped problems related to drug addicts or the use of illegal drugs as a problem of crime. So maybe if based on your suggestion to group it under health, for example, we'll see. The data is there, it's in the archives, and we invite researchers to, you can look at the verbatim response to see if there are other groupings that can be done. But for us, the one we showed you, drugs were grouped under crime.
Okay. Yeah. May I invite others to raise their questions either in the chat box or the Q&A box, or even to voice. Any questions? Or you're still digesting all the stuff that was presented? There's a question in the chat box, and that is from Ms. Tutor. Our performance in learning assessments is bad, yet Filipinos seem to think the government is doing a good job in improving education. What is your sense of this?
Yeah. So the way we implement it is that we have a battery of issues, and the one about education that we have is about children's education. Let me just look at my código. So that I can give the context of the results. Now, improving children's education, that's the specific issue. And it wasn't as high before. It was low during the Estrada administration, and during Arroyo administration, it was neutral. And by the time we tested this question, the Aquino administration, it was going up. It went up during the Duterte administration. And during the Marcos administration, it has been on a downward trend. Now, we just, we usually attribute changes in the satisfaction rating based on what's in the news, what's being done about education, what's being reported through media, because that's where people get their information from, and what's happening with their children. Now, it is the highest in terms of net satisfaction, given all other issues like helping the poor, creating jobs. But it wasn't as high as before. Baka nagkataon lang na given the other issues that we tested, improving children's education was the most favorably rated at plus 54, but it used to be as high as, more than 70, plus 70% at the start of the Marcos administration. So yeah, it wasn't as high as before, but it's highest in terms of compared to the other issues tested in our surveys. And for us, we attribute it to what's being done, what's the source of information by the respondents to be able to give that generous rating for this particular issue, improving children's education. Not as high as, for example, helping the poor, creating jobs, development science and technology, and so on. And definitely, for example, not as high as the problem areas, fighting inflation. But yeah, we hope we can be enlightened. We also rely on people on the ground, to see what's happening when it comes to education. Why are people seeing this particular topic as favorable as compared to the others? So yeah, the base level that we can look at is what's being reported in the news. But we hope that, people on the ground, people that's in the position to see what's happening in the education. In short, we also need to know what's being done correctly in terms of why education is being favorably rated.
Yeah. Thank you. May I also invite Jay Sandoval to weigh in if you'd like?
Yeah, my personal comment on the matter is that perhaps when we ask about the public's assessment about the government's performance regarding to education, it may not be entirely about improving the learning assessments. Maybe to the general public, the education pertains to, seeing schools alone, having access to education. Maybe ganun pa lang. Hindi yung pagkakaroon ng mataas na exam results, etc. So it could be that to the public, when they see efforts by the government to construct schools for their children to be able to go to school, that's already a good performance in terms of improving education of the Filipinos.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the Dean or Professor Amit?
Well, thank you, sir. I think I've been thinking about how SWS probably have, of course, the generation of the data, the analysis, the data visualization is there. I don't know if I missed it in the initial presentation, but how have you somehow connected or mobilized
probably the academe or other research bodies to consolidate support on a certain issue? Or do you leave that for the academe or the research bodies or individual researchers to take it on further after data has been collected already? So I think that's what's running through my head right now. Thank you, sir.
Jay, would you like
Okay,
to?
I'll go ahead. Well, on the part of SWS, of course, our primary mandate is to generate statistics. Uh, we do uh, release the results in the SWS website, so it can be part of the public discourse. But beyond that, if I may say, we do not go actively out in, organizing the academe or certain groups to to advocate for the use of the data. But we have events like this. It gives us opportunity to share the data that we have, to share the SWS survey results. And annually, we have this annual survey review for us to be able to share the results publicly. When Leo creates the media releases, when SWS creates one, we actively send out to the different newspaper organizations and to the news organizations, the media, and including those who are subscribed to the SWS email list to receive media releases by SWS.
Also, if I may, Professor Amit, um, the database is at SWS headquarters, and if there are questions that a researcher would like to pose to the database, it's feasible, I believe, to go to the SWS person in charge, and you can query the database as to what this question is, and be able to get access for your own analysis, as long as, of course, you provide appropriate attribution to SWS. I see there's a question from Dean Rhea. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bruce. Thank you again to Sir Leo and Sir Jay. So my question actually is about, because what we've seen, and grabe, parang na-overwhelm yung senses ko dun sa data. It's really good. I want to know, kasi we're working in rural development and governance, and we're looking at data at the aggregate at the local level. Do you have also data such as those, not only at the national level? I mean, yeah.
Okay. So
Parang.
I'll answer that, Leo. Given the design of the survey, we typically have 1,200 respondents nationwide. It allows us to disaggregate the results by the four major areas only: Metro Manila, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. With 300 sample size, for instance, in Luzon, you could further disaggregate it by urban and rural areas. But if you ask what specific regions, what specific provinces, more so, which specific cities or municipalities, I'm afraid the data does not allow for that level of disaggregation. We do have some surveys, like the one Leo presented on the Mega Manila survey. It had 600 respondents. It allowed data to be disaggregated by the 6 study areas, or 5: Metro Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal. But lower than that, the data will not support analysis at the lower geographical levels.
Yeah.
Thank
On
you
this
for that,
point,
sir. Yeah.
and going back to the earlier discussion on drugs, an anonymous attendee points out that it's interesting because in Mindanao, the drug problem is always the top problem. So if you disaggregate the data from national to Mindanao only, there's a difference in the response. And an interesting discussion might be had on why is it that in Mindanao it's always the top problem. Is that is that investigation possible, Jay?
Yes, definitely. Now, but it's possible to have the data disaggregation, for instance.
Yeah, yeah.
Leo was able to show the the experience
You're
of hunger.
choppy in and out, Jay.
Sorry. Okay, what I'm saying is that it's possible to have that level of disaggregation, like what Leo showed, for instance, earlier on the experience of hunger. He showed the experience of hunger by the different study areas, and we can do the same for the most important problem.
Okay, yeah. There's another question in the Q&A box, which contrasts the official poverty statistics have been falling since 2010, but self-rated poverty is not moving. What would be a good way to investigate this divergence further?
Siguro ako muna, Lay.
Yeah, ikaw.
All right. Well, essentially, there's a difference in the measurement, if I may say, no? The SWS approach is bottom up. It's self-rated. We show, like what Leo discussed, we showed a card to the respondent with the words poor and not poor and a line in between, and the respondent would say, I consider my household to be poor. So that's a self-rated, a bottom-up approach. The official poverty is based on a top-down approach. They ask you questions about your income and expenditure, and they would compute and tell you, okay, based on your income and your expenditure, you are poor. So that's the definition.
Okay. Yeah. And I also recall a column that Mahar Mangahas wrote not too long ago that the official definition of poor is that it's like you're eating paper. While while the Filipino family's conception of an adequate diet may be quite different from the official definition of an adequate diet.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's important to consider.
Yes.
Another item raised in the chat box, what are the common challenges that you encounter in data collection?
Okay.
And what suggestions would you have for researchers who would like to embark a nationwide survey?
Of course, in the Philippines, the SWS primary mode of data collection is face-to-face. So that means going physically to the different study areas, the different barangays. And given the terrain in the Philippines, of course, it's difficult to go up the mountainous areas. And if you are in other places, you have to cross, I mean, several rivers in order for you to go to your target respondents. That's a situation that the enumerators will have to encounter during fieldwork. And of course, when you are attempting to interview respondents, there are always possibility of households not allowing you to do the interview. There are refusals. There are dogs. Ang kwento nga nila nung sa fieldwork, ang medyo iniwasan nila yung mga aso na matatapang during field work kasi they have to avoid being bitten by dogs. So anyway, but that's part of the 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 field coverage concern. Some areas, in some areas, there are local officials who will not allow surveys to be conducted, and of course, to do that, we have to secure the approval of the local government officials. Now, in conducting national surveys, it's important to always consider the 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 probabilities and the randomization. Kasi it's there are reports here and there about a certain survey conducted, and accordingly, yung iba sasabihin nila, look, I have 10,000 respondents, I have 20,000 respondents. And if you study closer the methodology used, it turns out ano pala siya, yung survey niya ay kanyang mga Facebook friends. So it's not representative of the population being studied. So in order to do a scientific representative national survey, you have to consider the rules of, sampling. You have to consider always that every unit in the population has a chance of being selected in the survey. If you exclude that, if you use purposive approaches in selecting your respondents, then you have to caution the readers of your report that, you selected respondents in a non-probability way.
Okay.
If I may also add to the suggestions, you have to consider also the survey instrument. If you're planning to do a nationwide survey and it's a survey that you wish to be sustainable, sometimes it's tempting to put as many or as so much topics and questions in a single questionnaire. So you have to be careful with that because you're also looking after the welfare of the respondents. There's such a thing as respondent fatigue. Pag masyadong mahaba yung interview, for example. But aside from that, is it a survey that you wish to repeat in the future? Is it kumbaga parang doing a nationwide survey, you have to also consider the budget. For example, a longer questionnaire will not only, for example, have a risk of respondent fatigue, but also it's going to be costly. Marami ring gastos ang mahabang questionnaire. So yeah, those are the things that I think an institution should consider when planning to do nationwide surveys.
Dagdag ko lang rin po, since Leo mentioned questionnaires and national surveys, in our national surveys, we have to translate the questionnaire into various languages depending on the areas sampled for the study. So merong Iligaynon, may Tagalog, may Cebuano, may Tausug, depende dun sa sample na area kasi kailangan yung mga interviews will have to be conducted in the local languages. So hindi lamang yung respondent ang marunong magsalita ng local language, pati yung field enumerators should be able to speak the local language.
Okay. Any other questions from the panelists? We have set our Q&A period to up to 11:20, so we have time for a few more questions. There's a couple more in the Q&A box, which I think you've already addressed, Jay and Leo, which is about the survey design representing the population of households that reside close to the denser areas of the barangays. Would that be correct or that's
Hindi po kasi dun sa pagpili ng mga mai-interview na lugar, merong sinusunod na proseso dun sa field level, merong starting points, may random start. Tapos ang nangyayari nga dun sa mga rural areas, ang nangyayari sa aming mga enumerators sa kakalakad nila sa pagsunod nila ng coverage rules, tatawid sila ng mga ilog, bundok, barangay ng households na ma-interview. So we conduct interviews.
okay?
Difficult to conduct.
There are a couple of hands raised from the audience. Let
Sure.
me see. I don't see the questions.
If I may
Yeah, go ahead,
also
Leo.
add to Jay's,
Yeah.
the question also mentioned, are we capturing the opinions of homeless people?
Mhm.
I don't think we have that.
Yeah.
Because household-based surveys are based on the respondents are chosen from a household. There's a structure, so we may not the survey is not designed for homeless people, but we've had surveys, special surveys, for example, on children in street situation. So these are street children. That's a survey really designed to locate these children and gather data from them. So while our quarterly surveys are designed for household based, that we've done past surveys that really target homeless or children in street situations.
Okay. Those with raised hands, please voice your question.
Sir, good morning po. Marinig niyo po ako, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Sir Bruce. Good morning, Sir Layer, Sir Jay. I'm Steven John Meliendez from the province of Sultan Kudarat, a researcher po. Question direct to the both speakers po. Sir Layer, Sir Jay, we all know na-present yun na po kanina about sa yung performance po ng mga administrations and parang last week o couple of days palabas ng trust and net ratings for both president and vice president po. I'm very curious naman po about sa surveys po with regards sa net and trust ratings po because ano po ba yung factor or what are the factors na na binabasehan ninyo to have this politician like our president na yung trust and confidence ng isang tao ay dependent sa kanyang performance sa kanyang ginagawa kasi like President Marcos po, kasi kanina while you presenting the tables and etc. about the service po, yung mga kwan po ng tawag po nito, yung mga may or what should I say is yung mga like we all know may economic crisis po tayo ngayon na kinakarap. Do you think this are makakaapekto po ba for the next trust and confidence survey of President Marcos kapag hindi niya ito na-address yung mga problema like pagtaas ng bilihin, fare hike, and whatsoever? And ano po ba yung magiging factor nito in the next couple of months po? Yun po yung tanong ko po. Thank you po.
Okay, so pareho kami sasagot daw. Una, gusto kong maraming salamat sa tanong mo, Steven. Yung performance at saka trust rating, ito ay standard question sa SWS surveys na kung saan tinatanong namin yung respondent dun sa performance. Ang standard question ay gaano po kayo nasisiyahan o hindi nasisiyahan sa pagganap ng tungkulin halimbawa ni Ferdinand Marcos Jr. bilang Pangulo ng Pilipinas. The same goes for the Vice President, except that we cite her name at saka yung position niya. Now, in asking for the general performance rating, it's an overall question. So, bahala si respondent kung ano ang magbigay ng kung ano ang kanyang criteria sa pagbibigay ng rating. So, it's an overall rating by the respondent to the government official. Similarly, dun sa trust rating, ganun din. It's an overall trust rating of the respondent to the individual. Hindi namin siya yung rating. Although it could be in other surveys we have asked, bakit po ninyo nasabi na nasisiyahan kayo sa performance? But typically in the surveys, we do not ask for reasons for their satisfaction dito sa aming quarterly nationwide surveys. Ngayon, yung sinabi mong comment about sa mga kasalukuyang pangyayari sa Pilipinas, halimbawa yung pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin, yung corruption, pagtaas ng presyo ng langis, at saka yung pamasahe, it's possible that they could impact lalo na dun sa quality of life. Siguro yung magsasabi ng uri ng pamumuhay, baka sumama yung kanilang sagot, ano. Pero lahat ng ito makikita natin o mako-confirm natin sa susunod na survey ng SWS na gagawin ngayong March 2026.
Okay, thank you. We have a final question from Raymond Piñon. Please go ahead, Mr. Piñon. Okay, Mr. Piñon. Going once. Going twice, nawala na ata si Mr. Piñon.
Sir, nasagot na po yung
Okay, go
question.
ahead. All right, go
My
ahead.
question
Please.
was, thank you very much, sirs. My question was, what shaped the opinion kung natatanong yun? Pero obviously, hindi naman kasama yun sa survey. I was curious, what were their sources of information? What shaped their attitudes, no? That developed into their opinions? Kasi to me, it's important, no? Yung media ba? Is it the broadcast media? Is it the social media? Or word of mouth? Which is the most influential factor?
Although not in the presentation, sorry, Dr. Bruce, although not in the slides, when we asked for public access to the different media, we found na yung access sa newspaper napakababa among Filipinos nowadays. No? Nasa 4% na lamang siya nationally ang nagbabasa ng dyaryo on a daily basis. Yung nakikinig sa radyo, siguro mga 16% on a daily basis. Yung nanonood ng television, siguro nasa mga 40% on a daily basis. Yung nag-access ng social media, halos kaparehas na ng nanonood sa television. Minsan nga medyo mataas pa siya. So, kung yun ang consideration natin, kung saan nakakakuha ng impormasyon yung mga Filipino public, so parang lumalabas, ito ay galing sa social media, ito ay galing sa television.
Oh, thank you. Kasi that's related to my question about fake news, no?
Yep.
I don't know if there's a way to screen fake news by government effort. Kasi if they're getting their sources from fake news, then that's dangerous. It will affect public opinion and essentially, ultimately, siguro public policy.
If I may add din dun sa trying to understand the changes in public opinion regarding a person or a government official, of course, the first level is knowing what was happening during the time of the survey or what was happening even before the survey that could possibly contribute to, for example, an increase or a decline in satisfaction ratings or trust ratings or whatever the case is. But we also try to make sense of those changes by looking at our own data. We have core indicators of quality of life, as I mentioned kanina, hunger, poverty, gainers, losers, optimist, pessimist, and we do analysis of the data to see, for example, that if we look at households that experience hunger in the past 3 months, we're based on survey history, we're quite sure that these are the households that may not be as satisfied or may not be as generous when rating the government. Same with the president, for example. If we disaggregate the respondents according to whether are they poor or not poor or borderline, we see patterns or we see differences in opinion when it comes to how they see the government or how they rate the public officials. So yeah, it helps us understand. And for example, if hunger went up, how does this incident affect the ratings of the president, for example? If they consider the prices of commodities to be, the problem, are these people satisfied with the president or not? So those things we can do by looking at the data closely. Pero yun yung problema namin. Wala kami masyadong oras looking at the data. We're very busy preparing for the next survey, which is why we invite the researchers and everyone to, you can do those analysis using our data.
So can I add just one more question? Kasi since jobs are on the top of the list of the key issues, can you disaggregate it by sector, by industry, or by job categories? Kasi hindi available yung entrepreneurship data dyan, yung type of businesses. No? Saang sectors ba talaga nagkakaroon ng problema sa jobs?
Yes. Part of the background data that we collect from our respondents is their occupation. For those who say that they have a occupation kasi meron din kaming mga respondents who reported na wala silang pinakakakitaan or the jobless. So yes, these occupations are recorded verbatim. So naka-record sila and post-survey or during data processing na-assign sila according to the what's the accepted classification of occupations. But yes, these sectors can be, pwedeng himayin and see what's the differences among different sectors.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been quite a session, and we can go on and on and on because there are so many topics. Aside from the methodological learning that we can gain by looking at the experience of SWS that has been doing this for a long time already. Tried and tested na po yan sa battlefield ng mga surveys. So, again, if I may suggest to everybody tuning in, subscribe to the SWS channels on social media so that you can get an update on the regular surveys. Before we close, there are a couple more things that we need to do. And let me turn it over to our team before Professor Amit closes. Thank you. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. That was an incredible discussion and very informative for us participants as well. We even reached up to 70 participants actually. Thanks very much, of course, to our moderator, Dr. Bruce, who has been very instrumental making this webinar happen. And of course, to our generous speakers from SWS, Sirs J and Leo. Thank you very much for being a sport, answering all of those questions. Ayan. Before we close, let's move on to the awarding of certificates and of course a group picture. So please turn on your videos po, Sir Bruce, Sirs Leo, and Jay. So I can read the certificate of appreciation. And also so that we can see you as well being awarded this. Okay, please turn on your videos po. Thank you. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to Gerardo A. Sendova, Leo Rando S. La Rosa for our speakers, and then of course to V. Bruce J. Tolentino as moderator for their invaluable contributions as resource persons in the seminar Voices and Verdicts, SWS Survey Review on Politics, Governance, and Public Life, held on 18th March 2026, organized by the UPLB College of Public Affairs and Development in collaboration with Social Weather Stations, given this 18th day of March 2026. Signed, Rhea L. Gumasing, Dean of SIPA. So to all the panelists, can you open your videos as well, especially Dean Rhea and Ma'am Mayo, of course, our tech team as well. A round of applause, of course, a round of virtual applause, please, for our speakers and moderator. Let's have a quick group photo. So to all panelists, please turn on your video. Turn on your videos, please. And pose for a smile. Yes, okay. So there you have it. 1, 2, 3, please take a picture. I think we got it. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, thanks everyone. And now for the closing remarks, may we call on the Director of Institute for Governance and Rural Development of UPLB CPAF, Director Mayo Grace Liang.
Okay, thank you for everyone. So how do you end something so beautiful? We've just started conversation on many important things, but I will end this, we'll close this webinar with a challenge for everyone that let us remain interested and vigilant to really take interest on what's happening around us, especially about information and data that's already available in our midst. We have spoken about earlier about fake news and how we will be able to navigate all this information that's available to us. We are already drowning in information. But most importantly, we know that there are information and data that matter the most. And one good thing that SWS offers to us is they're able to put in very neat form matters of governance and how this intersects with the consciousness of ordinary people nationwide. And that simplification, simple as it may, holds a lot of importance in how we perceive leadership, what can we do, what we cannot do. Probably it also opens our eyes to realities which were not there in the first place, or it further adds rigor to what we already know. So the data that is presented to us by SWS is not just ordinary data, data visualization, patterns and trends. These are collected carefully and they're vetted by very seasoned experts. So all of this, I hope we can carry with us and we carry it further to wider audiences within our networks. Because of course, in the academic setting, there's a certain level of messaging and communication that we ourselves understand, but we have to bring that out further to our networks and in the audiences that we also interact with on a daily basis. And I think that will help us further conversations such as this. So there are a lot of questions earlier about methodologies. Of course, the questions that are being asked, how are these appreciated? How are these new ones? How can we do more? And in those conversations, I hope that we have found place where we can try to connect our own interests too. That's why my question earlier was, how can we connect and contribute and complete the picture of how we can answer questions that are very relevant to everybody. So together with SWS, I hope we continue this kind of conversations in topics even beyond what we have been talking about this morning, because I think at the end of it, all we want really is to better understand the environment where we work together, clarify issues, advocate for areas where we can collaborate, and more importantly, elevate this to our policymakers and decision makers for a policy response, especially where there is needed. So we thank VP Sandoval, of course, and Director La Rosa for investing your time with us this morning. And I hope we will be able to return the investment of that time, making your time worthwhile. So we will do our part. So that's the next step until we meet again in another forum, in another event. And of course, finally, to Dr. Tolentino, thank you for sharing your knowledge so generously. Also, your professional network, office mates, networks who became friends along the way. Not only do these events shape minds, we also build networks. And in doing so, not just in the personal level, but also the institutions we represent, we also strengthen those networks. So thank you again to everyone. And let's continue on supporting evidence-based good governance for the development that we want to happen for our country. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Ma'am Mayo, for
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
And
thanks
that's
for Ma'am Mayo. Okay, for that synthesis and closing message in one. Now, for the most awaited part of the webinar, of course, after the presentation, the post-evaluation. Please accomplish the form to get your certificates of attendance. You may scan the QR code or just type in the short link. Along with the certificate, you will also be getting the PDF version of the speaker's presentation. I was also informed, we were also informed by Sir Leo that their presentation will be available on the SWS website. Maybe VPJ or Sir Leo, Director Leo, they can just chat the URL of the website. So for more information about SWS, you may go check that out. They are also on Facebook. We have tagged them on one of our posts, so you can also follow them there. So that's it. To close, on behalf of the team at CPAF and SWS, I would like to thank everyone for your interest to the topic and engaging with us actively during the open forum. For more learning events such as this one, you can just like our Facebook page at UPLB College of Public Affairs and Development. And that's it. I hope you have a good day. Sir Bruce, do you also have something to say, Papo, as a closing? Okay, I think that's a wrap. Ayan, nakita ko yung chat ni Sir Leo, www.sws.org.ph. Go check that out. I'm sure it would be very enriching for you, for us participants. So that's it. This is Michiko Buatlantican, University Researcher at CPAP's Knowledge Management Office, signing out. So bye. Thank you po. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome to the College of Public Affairs and Development of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. CPAF is home to globally competitive thought leaders where they are honed in the fields of development and governance. We are located right at the foot of our beautiful Mount Makiling. Step into CPAF and experience a vibrant academic environment where ideas turn into action.
Since its recognition as a full-fledged college in 1998, CPAF has stood out for its interdisciplinary approach, combining public affairs, governance, and development with strong focus on Philippine and regional contexts. Moreover, CPAF is known for its policy-relevant research. Also, it has an active engagement with capacity building for various communities. Its strategic location here at UPLB and strong institutional partnerships further enhance its role in molding development-oriented leaders and influencing evidence-based policy.
Here's what we have in a quick sneak peek. Institute for Governance and Rural Development, Center for Strategic Planning and Policy Studies, Community Innovation Studies Center, Knowledge Management Office, and the Dean's Office. CPAF has been the leading institution in public affairs and development, bridging research policy and community-driven solutions. At CPAF, we are more than just an academic institution. We are a research and extension hub for strategic planning, policy studies, and community innovation. All change makers, practitioners, academics, and lifelong learners are welcome to collaborate with our research centers or join our academic degree programs. So, what do we learn here? At CPAF, we mentor our students by exposing them to our growing network of global and local linkages. These linkages open doors to career opportunities in public affairs and development. We provide training for our students to be well-rounded policy analysts and advocates, development managers, research and extension personnel, and academic leaders of rural development and governance. CPAF champions public affairs as a transdisciplinary field, so students learn to be inclusive and innovative through the co-creation of knowledge with communities. This leads to greater responsiveness in addressing the present problems of the modern world.
Our college offers programs that endeavor to contribute in the development of transformational and thought leaders for development. So we have currently 5 programs that we offer that hope to enhance the skills and the competencies of development practitioners.
So join us and be part of our programs. Master in Public Affairs, Master or MS in Development Management and Governance, MS or PhD in Community Development, MS or PhD in Extension Education, or PhD in Development Studies.
I choose CPAS because the CPAS offer the coursework that met with my academics and career goal. And I'm also saw the CPAS alumni in my country, which is inspire me to study at CPAS because they are working in the top positions, especially in NGO and INGO field. And then also bear friendship with your friend and with your professor because they can support you.
As an international student, I feel fortunate to be studying at CEPAF, where I've had many memorable experiences. The academically and socially enriching environment has made my graduate school journey both enjoyable and fulfilling. The knowledge and the experience that I have gained here will help me to contribute to future sustainable development efforts.
So what are you waiting for? Start your journey at UPLB CPAF and be part of a positive social change.